Welcome, everyone. Today, we're discussing a topic that has become increasingly important across hospitality, gaming, travel, tourism, and customer care. Beyond the score, why customer experience must prove its value in 2026. The inspiration for today's discussion comes from a recent research conducted by Medallia and findings outlined in the 2026 State of CX report. The data shows something surprising. 66% of companies believe customer experience is improving, while only 17% of their customers agree. That disconnect raises an important question. Are we measuring experience effectively, or are we simply just measuring activity? Today, we're going to explore why customer loyalty is changing, why guest expectations continue to rise, how AI is reshaping our service delivery, why employee experience is becoming even more important, and ultimately, how hospitality leaders can connect CX investments directly to profitability. I'm Robert Levine, co-founder and CEO of ComOps, and I'm joined by Sofya Williams, our SVP of Sales and Customer Success, and George Polyard, our Chief Operating Officer. All right, we'll dive right in. Let's start off with this concept of the great perception gap. This question's for you, George. The article highlights a massive disconnect between how companies view their performance and customers view it. Why do you think that gap exists?
Yeah, I think it's a great question and a good way to start. I think that the big reason and what we see with a lot of our clients is they are hyper focused on a few metrics and a few averages. And that's how they look at their business. It might be service target goals that they set, staffing goals, revenue projections, etc. But what a guest actually remembers, what they experience are typically some specific interactions. They don't remember those averages. In hospitality, we're not judged by our average performance. We're judged by those little moments that matter the most.
That's great. What else are you seeing in hotels and casinos that support this?
Yeah, kind of along those lines, we're seeing a lot of fragmented ownership and even sometimes a lack of ownership altogether. So revenue owns revenue. The marketing team might own the web experience. Sometimes there's a customer experience team. Sometimes there's not. And no one owns the holistic journey. Guests don't experience those departments. They experience and they give you the totality of it as one brand. If those teams aren't aligned, and if they don't have typically a governance committee or an individual overseeing the totality of the experience, then friction comes up throughout the journey. And departments then think they're succeeding when in the mind of the guest, they're really not.
Yeah, thank you, George. Sofya, this one's to you. When your customer success team or your sales team meet with prospective clients, the executives you're meeting with, are they surprised what customers are actually saying?
Absolutely, Robert. That's a great question. Most leadership teams, they believe they know what is frustrating their guests. But in reality, when we start looking at surveys, social reviews, contact center conversations, operational data, and bringing all this data together, almost every time we uncover issues that were not on anyone's radar. I think, to George's point, I think the biggest mistake I see organizations make is confusing averages with experiences, right? You can have, as a hotel, you can have a fantastic NPS, but while guests are still frustrated with how long it takes, for housekeeping to come in. You can have, as a casino, you can have great satisfaction scores, but your guests are complaining about beverage service taking too long. So I think the organizations that are winning today, they're looking beyond the service scores and they're connecting feedback from every touch point to understand what guests are actually experiencing. And I think the question becomes, are companies over measuring satisfaction and under measuring friction points?
That's great. So if loyalty is becoming harder to earn, understanding these moments become even more important. I think that's critical in today's environment.
Yeah. So, Sophia, what do you think? So the article suggests that loyalty is not owned necessarily, but it's something earned. What does that mean to you? What does that mean practically?
Yeah, I think loyalty has become more fragile than ever, right? The reality is guests have more choices, they have more information than ever before, and they have a lot higher expectations than ever before. So I think the biggest competitor for a hotel or casino isn't necessarily not a hotel anymore. It's the great experience your guests had yesterday, right? If Amazon can solve a problem within 30 seconds, why am I waiting on hold? If Uber can tell me where my driver is, why can't the hotel tell me when my room is going to be ready? So I think guests compare every experience against the best experience they've had anywhere. I think points still matter, rewards still matter, but the experience determines where that loyalty survives. Um, so on that point, Robert, do you think loyalty programs have become less powerful? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, we know loyalty still matters. Guests find value in these programs. But especially in a general hotel visit, we see in some markets guests making fewer trips, with average daily rate increasing and the cost of travel increasing. They're becoming more and more selective about how they reward organizations with their customer spend. But especially in the casino environment, loyalty matters a lot. And experience we see is connected more than ever with how loyalty survives. So a lot of the folks that we work with on from a CX perspective, not only understand the trends, but they also use these programs to predict churn and to use this as almost an insurance program to ensure that they understand when a gap occurs, how they can retain loyalty. So while guests are more selective with their travel spend, understanding their sentiment is more important than ever. So George and Sophia, maybe you can weigh in. What industries outside hospitality are creating loyalty expectation that hotels and casinos now have to match?
I think Costco is a great example, Robert. I think they are known for, they've earned customer trust. They're known for their value and consistency. Another one comes to mind is Chick-fil-A. And, me being in Georgia, they empower their employees. And I think they're known for fast recovery. So their service is definitely top notch.
The way I think about it as well is that hospitality is not siloed in the mind of the guest. It's no longer competing with other hospitality brands. It's competing with incredibly large, incredibly tech-enabled and forward-thinking organizations that can deliver hyper-personalization at scale. And therefore, the guests have similar expectations at a hotel that they would when they're using the Starbucks app in an airport. When I use the Starbucks app at an airport, it tells me the closest location. It knows that I like a triple tall Americano, and I can order it within seconds. The hotel industry is still not quite there yet. And I think maybe some of the big players have the scale and ability to deliver on that, but especially the small independent brands really don't. And I think sometimes when they try, they fail, and there's really thoughtful about that, especially if you are at the smaller side of the industry. It's not a bad thing necessarily. And I would even encourage clients of that scale. You're a single unit, small boutique hotel or single unit casino, maybe to scale back some of those things. And what you do provide, really knock it out of the park, because guests are now used to these, again, hyper transparent and personalized experiences with a lot of these day-to-day brands.
So shifting gears a little bit, I thought it was interesting that this article doesn't discuss extensively employee experience. Robert, why should hospitality companies and leaders think about EX and CX together?
Yeah, I think this is critical, especially for any B2C organization. Certainly makes sense in a B2B organization as well, but we see it, the biggest amplification of this in B2C, and that's about the service profit chain. And the service profit chain was released over 30 years ago, and it makes the connection between employee experience and customer experience directly correlated. So we know when team members have the right tools, the right motivation, and they're happy that they deliver increased customer expectations. They listen differently. They react differently. They go through training differently. Their employee retention goes up, which makes them more proficient. And by doing that, we're able to increase what the customer is actually being delivered. And that entire process creates more loyal customers, and they share a bigger piece of their wallet. So they visit more. When they visit, they stay longer. And while they're there, they have higher spend. These action items, because we don't typically need to increase our marketing investment to support those, have incredible flow through. And in today's environment where marketing costs are still elevated, having your best customers be your advocate is a big deal, especially when they do so online. This helps to accelerate their voice, your brand promise, and how you deliver on that brand promise, which inspires more and more customers to come visit. And it has tremendous impact on search engine optimization, helping Google, Microsoft, ChatGPT, all of these large language models elevate your brand to the top of the search. George, what do you think? Where do organizations typically break in the service profit chain?
Yeah, I don't think it breaks at the customer side of things. I think it's more the employee side of things. And even down to the line level customer facing employees, that I don't think they are typically empowered. I think they aren't communicated enough about what their role is in the organization and how it contributes. And I think also the systems are generally far too complicated. So therefore, these employees become really disconnected from the mission, and it becomes difficult for them to consistently deliver great experiences.
What about you, Sophia? What are you seeing from customers that are successfully connecting employee experience and customer experience?
I think that the best organizations that I'm winning today, they understand that employee experience and guest experience are really inseparable, right? The way I like to think is that guest experience, your employee experience, right? So most bad experiences happen because employees are dealing with broken processes, disconnected system, lack of training, or maybe unclear expectations. So, one example I see all the time is that you have a contact center agent that has to use multiple systems to take care of a guest on the phone. That's not a guest experience. That's an employee experience problem. But I think that the organizations that are doing it well, they are sharing guest feedback with their team members. They're using that feedback as a coaching tool. They're incentivizing and recognizing the employees. And I think, Robert, you mentioned this earlier, when employees understand the impact they have on the guest journey, everything improves. So now, kind of moving on to everyone's favorite topic, AI. Robert, do you think AI can actually improve employee experience?
Absolutely. I've got a lot of confidence when I say that AI can actually improve the customer experience as a direct impact by improving the employee experience. So we see this all the time, especially in the contact center. Having live agents is still really important to most customer journeys, but giving that employee something like an agent assist, where it's listening to the phone call, it's transcribing customer name or ticket number or reservation confirmation number, something that empowers the agent to focus on building a warmer relationship with the customer, not necessarily all of the compliance related items, something that's surfacing the next knowledge article so that the agent knows the next right offer and how to talk about the next right offer. It could be something as simple as listening for sentiment in prior transactions and giving the context on our agent a smiley face or a frown face so that that agent knows on this next phone call, the last interaction this customer had was either very positive or perhaps there was a gap. So AI, we view as kind of an accelerant to delivering a better employee experience, which directly impacts the customer experience.
I would tack on there that I think AI can have an impact if it's used correctly. There are so many tools out there that the fundamental goal should be, how can we remove friction from our teams day to day so they can spend more time helping customers? The goal should not be fewer human interactions. It should be more meaningful human interactions. And if that's the North Star with AI for most hospitality organizations, I think AI is going to help. But I think also AI can really get in the way. And so I think we need to be selective with how we are using it.
Yeah, that's a great transition point, George. So we know that by leveraging AI, you introduce amazing opportunity, but you also bring in some degree of risk. We know that guests are less forgiving of artificial intelligence mistakes relative to human mistakes. Why do you think that is?
I think hospitality is just fundamentally a human endeavor, and bringing AI in to replace those magical human customer service moments, I think, is a recipe for disaster. If a hotel employee makes a mistake and they take ownership, guests will forgive it. But let's say you arrive to a hotel and you get a phone call and it's an AI bot and it's wishing you a happy birthday, but it's not your birthday. Like, that would be really weird. And that would be bizarre, especially coming from an AI bot. Guests do not want AI to handle that. They want a manager. So instead, use that AI capability to free up time so the manager can actually make the phone call or write the amenity card. That's at the end of the day where hospitality creates value. Hey, Sofya, what do you think? Where should humans remain critical or central in hospitality?
I don't think the question is whether AI should replace humans. I think the question is where humans can create the most value, right? Nobody wants to wait and hold for a simple question. But when, you have a guest anniversary trip that's ruined or, flight canceled or VIP guest has an issue, they want empathy and accountability. And that's kind of where humans matter most, right? So I think my view is simple. AI should eliminate friction, as I said, George. And humans should focus on what they're doing best. It's creating connection, building those relationships, and creating those warm, personalized experiences. And I think organizations that find that balance between using AI for efficiency and to eliminate friction and using human touch for connection and relationships will win at the end of the day. One thing I hear from leaders all the time is, how do you connect the dots between kind of CX and business value, right? So this article argues that CX leaders must prove business value. Robert, how do you think organization actually could do that?
Yeah, we hear this all the time, especially with our North American clients in hospitality, where margins are under pressure. So CX programs, even though they're a need to have, you still need to be able to measure the return on investment of these programs. So we work with a lot of our clients to help connect the dots. They need to understand that when a customer goes from a detractor to a passive, or a passive to a promoter, or a promoter to a detractor, what the financial implications are. We work with some of our clients who create a matrix to better understand at the loyalty level, what percent of their customers are currently passive or detractors, to use this as a way to mitigate risk and how to allocate resources to try to fix some of these customer service programs. So being able to connect guest spend directly to sentiment is critical. And we're able to do that by helping them understand at the patron level, over the duration, uh, what we're seeing as the guest changes from each life cycle stage. Are they visiting more? When they visit, are they staying longer? While they're there, are they increasing their average bet? Are they trading up for a higher room category? Are they spending more on food and beverage? So being able to connect those dots is absolutely critical. And for some clients that have a large group of promoter guests, there's even opportunity to reduce marketing reinvestment for those guests. They've chosen to select your organization to reward their loyalty to you, not necessarily because of the bells and whistles and the fancy digital campaigns, but because of the level of service that these organizations deliver. So it's not good enough anymore just to have a CX program. You need to be able to understand the contribution to the bottom line. George, as you're kind of thinking through this, what metrics should hospitality executives focus on just beyond the net promoter score?
Yeah, NVS is valuable, but it's just one piece of the story. Actually, before this call, this chat, I was reviewing a CX program of a multi-unit hotel brand, and the metadata that they had in their CX program was limited to basically the room number and the VIP code of a particular hotel guest. Didn't have anything financial, didn't have anything operational, maybe the check-in agent, and nothing historical, so no lifetime value or previous visits, even return guests, yes or no. And so as a result, the complete focus of that program was on Net Promoter Score, OSAT, and a bunch of metrics. And so as a result, the team is totally focused on just improving scores, not improving any outcomes. The strongest CX programs and really kind of the strongest organizations are always connecting those metrics to outcomes. So loyalty, revenue, retention. And I think if you're not focused on that, you're really missing out on quite a bit. So, Sophia, when clients are investing in CX, what business outcomes do you think they should be focused on?
Well, at the executive level, nobody is buying CX just for the sake of CX, right? They're investing in a tool or a program that will help them solve business problems, such as revenue growth, loyalty, retention, operational efficiency, and et cetera. And so I think to your point, George, the conversation is shifting away from just scores and more towards outcome. No CFO has ever approved the budget because NPS scores went down, right? They approve the budget because they're seeing revenue growth. They're seeing, guests coming back. Their spend is increasing. So I think organizations seeing the biggest returns, they're connecting that experience data directly with business performance. So, for casinos, if you have faster beverage service, that means, it's helping you drive unit spend. You have faster issue resolution. It improves repeat visitation. Better contact center experiences create, increasing conversion. So I think that's kind of really where CX becomes a growth strategy rather than just a reporting function.
Well, this has been wonderful to capture everyone's point of view. It's clear to me the winners in 2026 won't necessarily be the companies with the highest scores. They'll be the companies that can convert insights into action into loyalty, and loyalty into measurable financial results. Thank you all for joining us.